those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program on this Thursday. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul. This is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we're building a liberty machine, and we want you to be a part of that. And we thank you guys for being a part of that. I've got a lot to get to today. Coming up at the top of the next hour, we're going to be talking with Senator Tom Cotton will be on the program, 7:05. So an hour from now, Senator Tom Cotton, we're going to be talking about this book right here. Called Sacred Duty, a Soldier's Tour at the Arlington National Cemetery. You probably heard Tom on a lot of national outlets a couple of weeks ago talking about this great book. But we got 2 copies as well to give away, so stay tuned. I'm going to tell you how you can get a free copy of Sacred Duty. Here today on the program. Again, telephone number 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. A little under the weather. I've been coughing a lot for some reason. Can't figure it out. So bear with me here, folks. On the national news, let's start there. Last night was debate night, and tonight is debate night as well, right? Tonight's Joe Biden. He'll be on the stage tonight with the rest of them. I don't even know where to begin. I do know where to begin. Let's cue it up. This is the beginning. First question. First question of the Democrat debate goes to Elizabeth Warren, and it did not go the way anyone intended. Listen to. Yes. Listen to this. Here it is.
We're going to be talking about guns and climate here up top. A whole lot more in this hour. Obviously, because of the size of the field. Not every person will be able to weigh in on everything, but over the course of this next hour, we will hear from everyone. I promise everybody. And to begin with, we're going to go with guns. And Senator Warren, I want to start with you. We are less than 50 miles from Parkland, Florida, where 17 people were killed in a school shooting last year, and where there has been significant activism on gun violence ever since. Many of you are calling for a restoration of an assault weapons ban. But even if implemented, there will still be hundreds of millions of guns in this country. Should there be a role for the federal government? Your other mics are on. Everybody's mics are on. I think we have I heard that too. That's okay. I think we had a little mic issue in the back.
Control room, we've got contrary
we have the audience audio. All right. So the question is simply this. I apologize you guys didn't get to hear this, the first part of the question. Obviously, we're not far from Parkland, Florida. Gun activism has become a big part of high school life.
Take 2. Let's try
up
this
there
again.
In Broward County. Many of you are calling for tighter gun restrictions. Some of you are calling for the restoration of the assault weapons ban. But even if it's put in place, there's still going to be perhaps hundreds of millions of guns still on the streets. Is there a role for the federal government in order to get these guns off the streets?
Someone's got my binder.
What's happening?
We are hearing our colleagues' audio. If the control room could turn off
somebody's got my binder.
Yeah, if the control room could turn off the mics of our previous moderators, we will.
I think it's the prior moderator.
You know, we prepared for everything.
Guess what, guys?
We did not prepare for this.
We are going to take a quick break. We're going to get this technical situation fixed. We will be right back.
Okay. So that was the kickoff. Let's just pray. Let's hope and pray that that's literally what's going to happen, or every single time. That this is kind of a symbol, if you will, a foreshadowing, if you will, of things to come. This was the beginning of the Democrat. This was the birth of the Democrats' campaign to try to unseat President Donald Trump. There was certainly a lot of talk of socialism. There was a lot of talk about immigration. The most searched name I'm told, according to reports, was Tulsi. What's her name? What is her name? Tulsi Gabbard. She was the most searched name. We're going to get her audio, though, a little later because she is a soldier. She made sure everybody knew that. But here is, let's just kind of you had Julian Castro and Beto O'Rourke. And I finally learned how to pronounce Beto's name. And Julian Castro clarified that for everybody. You know, Robert Francis, who is really Irish, pretending to be a Hispanic. This is Julian Castro. Do what? An actual Hispanic. Thank you, Joe. Getting into it a little bit with Beto O'Rourke. Listen to this.
Stage have called to end that section, to terminate it. Some, like Congressman O'Rourke, have not. And I want to challenge all of the candidates to do that. I just think it's a mistake, Bethel. I think it's a mistake. And I think that if you truly want to change the system, then we got to repeal that section. If not, then it might as well be the same policy.
Let me respond to this very briefly. Actually, as a member of Congress, I helped to introduce legislation that would ensure that we don't criminalize those who are seeking asylum and refuge in this country. If you're fleeing desperation, then I want to make sure that you're treated with respect.
I'm still talking about everybody else.
But you're looking at just one small part of this. I'm talking about a comprehensive rewrite of our immigration laws.
That's not true.
And if we do that, I don't think it's asking too much for people to follow our laws when they come to this country.
I'm talking about millions of folks. A lot of folks that are coming are not seeking asylum. A lot of them are undocumented immigrants, right? And you said recently that the reason you didn't want to repeal Section 1325 was because you were concerned about human trafficking and drug trafficking. But let me tell you what. Section 18, Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Title 21, and Title 22 already cover human trafficking and drug trafficking. I think that you should do your homework on this issue. If you did your homework on this issue, you would know that we should repeal this section.
This is an issue that know what you're talking about. I just don't even care. But you did hear Julian's call him Beto, right? You heard him say the way you're supposed to, which I think is hilarious, and just kind of. I mean, Julian Castro is certainly just buying into this idea. He's Hispanic. Yeah, also, I mean, every time Beto O'Rourke wants to say something, he's got to use his neck. You got to use your neck. Yeah. They criticize him using his hand gestures too much, and so he's using his neck. Okay, next clip here are these rock star Democrats. Amy Klobuchar decided to get in a fight with Governor, I don't even know who these people are, Governor Jay Inslee about, what he said about abortion. You know, he doesn't have a uterus. Here's the thing, this governor of Washington, he doesn't have a uterus, and so how dare he? Listen to this.
It is, because it's not working for families, but it's sure as heck working for them. It's time for us to make families come first.
It should not be an option in the United States of America for any insurance company to deny women coverage for their exercise of their right of choice. And I am the only candidate here who has passed a law protecting a woman's right of reproductive health and health insurance. And I'm the only candidate who has passed a public option. And I respect everybody's goals and plans here. But we do have one candidate that's actually advanced the ball. And we got to have access for everyone. I've done it as a public option.
Senator Klobuchar, I want to get you. I'm fascinated by this, Senator Klobuchar.
I just want to say there's 3 women up here that have fought pretty hard for a woman's right to choose. So I'll start with that. Share the goal.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to barf. I'm just sorry. I'm going to throw up everywhere. Okay, next up, let's see. Who else was a shining star? Who do we have next, Joe? Yeah. Speaking of abortion, let's go back to Julian Castro. I never heard this term before. Maybe, Joe, you've heard this term. Reproductive justice. What is reproductive justice? He's not really going to tell you, but listen, he's going to.
All of you on stage support a woman's right to an abortion. You all support some version of a government health care option. Would your plan cover abortion, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, it would. I don't believe only in reproductive freedom. I believe in reproductive justice. And, what that means is that just because a woman, or let's also not forget, someone in the trans community, a trans female, is poor, doesn't mean they shouldn't have exercise that right to choose. And so I absolutely would cover the right to have an abortion. More than that, everybody in this crowd and watching at home knows that in our country today, a person's right to choose is under assault in places like Missouri, in Alabama, in Georgia. I would appoint judges to the federal bench that understand the precedent of Roe v. Wade and will respect it. And in addition to that, make sure that we fight.
Right. So, reproductive justice. What does that even mean? And you bring up trans people. So a trans woman, when he says a trans woman, does that mean, is he meaning, what does he mean by that? Does he mean a biological female who's transitioning to be a man? Because if you're meaning the opposite, what are we talking about here? You can't have kids. This is the Democrat Party for you. Just keep talking this nonsense, I guess. I mean, this is what we have to look forward to if we're gonna watch people compete in a Democratic primary.
As far as I'm aware, I've taken biology. When I started college, I started out as a pre-farm major, so I took a couple biology classes. And as far as I'm aware, how things work.
As far as I'm aware, is this new rating.
Maybe I don't know.
Maybe the professors were wrong, but what they said was.
For as far as I'm aware, when it comes to the biology of the organs in which it takes to produce a child for a female.
Yeah, the gametes.
No, ignore that. The uterus,
right, okay.
all the ovaries, all that stuff. If someone transitioning male to female does not have the capability to birth a child, you can go through surgery to get
we get the point.
To get a fake one, but there's no production of eggs to actually produce a child.
How dare you, Joe?
Hey,
how dare you?
Hey, I'm just saying.
You're so close-minded. You need to broaden your scope, man.
I don't think I'm close-minded. I'm just saying the things that I think I know.
As far as I know.
Which is all they're doing, too.
As far as I know. Good grief.
I'm just saying the things that I think I know. So do they. That's all they're doing.
I took this basic biology class one time. No, I'm just saying, I think the way you said that is hilarious because, yeah. All right, next up we have, what is this one? Oh, this is, let me read this headline. Scroll. Oh, now this is a great one to take a break on. All right. So Beto O'Rourke, okay, in the middle of an answer that he's giving in English about the economy, switches to Spanish, and the look on Cory Booker's face is one of complete confusion and also jealousy. Listen to this. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren is
70% on the very highest earners, those making more than $10 million a year. Would you support that? And if not, what would your top individual rate be?
This economy has got to work for everyone. And right now we know that it isn't. And it's going to take all of us coming together to make sure that it does. Necesitamos incluir cada persona en el éxito de esta economía. Pero si queremos hacer eso, necesitamos incluir cada persona en nuestra democracia. Cada votante necesitamos la representación y cada voz necesitamos escuchar. Right now we have a system that favors those who can pay for access and outcomes. That's how you explain an economy that is rigged to corporations and to the very wealthiest. A $2 trillion tax cut that favored corporations while they were...
Okay, so you get the point there. That's Beto O'Rourke, and otherwise known as Robert Francis, doing some, essentially like bilingual jiu-jitsu on the debate stage, and none of them saw it coming. None of them saw that coming, man. And in the Democrat primary, that move right there, that's like revolutionary. That's like innovative. And that was, some of them were just jealous. They were envious. They were just like, man, I wish I would have thought of that. Telephone number is 870-275-9799. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking with Senator Tom Cotton coming up at 7:05 about his book, A Sacred Duty, A Soldier's Tour at Arlington National Cemetery. And I've got 2 copies of this book, and I'm going to give 2 of them away. I'm going to give you on the program today, so just stay tuned, and I'll tell you how you can win a book. Win a book from Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton. All right, we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Back in a minute. Folks, I want you to welcome back to the program. On the line, we've got Mr. Jordan Stein. Jordan is with the Gun Owners of America, and he's the Director of Communications for this great organization. Jordan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. I hope you are.
Absolutely. I'm doing well, as always. And I want to remind people, while they're listening to this segment, that they also need to check out the local group, Patriots Vac 746, here in Arkansas, and become part of the online sensation today, because there are a lot of they make this segment possible, and I really appreciate them. And so, you know, they're looking out for the Second Amendment here in Arkansas, and I know Gun Owners of America is as well, Jordan, but also nationally. What can you tell us right now nationally about this fight with suppressors?
Yeah, so that's kind of the battle of the moment right now is with suppressors, and I'm sure you've heard that down in
Hey, folks, it's me, Paul Harrell. I want to say hello to everybody out there who's listening. We appreciate you and your support, especially those listening on KFPW, the Marshall out of Fort Smith, 96.7 FM, 1230 AM. You know, for all of our listeners, if you ever missed the program, you can get us online at conduitnews.com, facebook.com/conduitnews, or our YouTube channel. Just search for Conduit News and be sure to click the subscribe button and click the little bell to receive notifications. Here at Conduit News Radio, we provide you multiple ways to listen to your #1 source for Arkansas news and politics. ConduitNews.com. Bob Maloney here with a developing story from ASA News The Parrot. China is coming to Arkansas. We go live to the press conference where the Communist Chinese executive is addressing Arkansans for the first time. Let's listen into the translator. On behalf of the government of the People's Republic of China, we invite you to come and visit the newest named city in Arkansas, China, Delphia. We are very pleased to own an American city. The Communist government is proud to do business with the mediocre state of Arkansas. We are happy to take your money and your trees and send the profits back home. The Communist government of China was pleased to learn the taxpayers of Arkansas are excited to contribute their money with the hope, if you build it, one day jobs will come. We are excited to take your fields of capitalism and turn them into fields of communism, where every Arkansan has nightly dreams of Mao. China is looking forward to our investment of $1 billion in what is now called Arkansas. We see this as an investment in our future, and that future will be called New Beijing. Chinese investment will make Arkansas a great place for jobs as the People's Republic of China will succeed where the Soviets failed. As we build our roots deep in Arkansas, we are thrilled with the potential new ideas and advancement we will share with our people back home. Soon we will have the world's largest runway in the South China Sea, and we thank Arkansas for contributing to our noble cause. In closing, once we make China great again, all of you will see the glory of the revolution of Mao. And Arkansas, whatever you do, please never call the FBI.
Paul Harrell, Parody. Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to get to some more of these clips on the Democrat debate. Hey, and I got a text or over at the Facebook page. Somebody, let's see who said this. Jackie. Hang on. Let me find this. Got too many comments coming in at once, so I can't filter through. Jackie, do we really have to listen to what these idiots have to say? I purposely chose not to watch the debate last night because I knew I would end up shooting my TV. Now I'm going to shoot my phone. Jackie, I'm sorry. But this is the show I prepared. Oh, man. Christopher, to your comment, Joe, so only females can have a child? Mr. Man, take your fancy facts elsewhere, gender monger. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Also, let's see, Melina writing, New Beijing, you're killing me. LOL, scary, though. Yeah, it really is. Hey, thanks to Donald Trump, though, a lot of these Chinese deals are on hold coming in Arkansas. Yeah, not thanks to Joe Biden's son. He was making a ton of money from the Chinese. But interestingly enough, we do have some developments on, well, the whole idea of economic development in Arkansas. The main strategy is to take money and give it away to private companies, which, you know, you're never going to probably ever defeat that if I'm realistic about it. But we could at least say, hey, if you're going to give the money away, why China? Why not give it away to American companies, try to recruit them here? Speaking of giving money away, Arkansas Times' Max Brantley reports yesterday that the state is giving $2.9 million to Fayetteville's Theater Squared. And then he says, so let's talk about that rainy day fund. And this is interesting. Max Brantley makes the comparison that the general improvement funds that landed legislators like Jake Files and John Woods in jail, basically still going on. It's just coming out of the governor's discretionary fund. The Fayetteville Flyer reports on the contribution to the $31.5 million project, which also received $6 million from, $6 million from Fayetteville government source and more than $14 million from the Walton Foundation. So why not chalk on another $2.9 million from the Arkansas taxpayer? So this is, I don't know what this is. Is this economic development? Is this just, is this a rainy day? When you think of a rainy day fund, do you think giving $2.9 million to Theater Squared is appropriate? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. The money will come from the state's rainy day fund in recognition of the project's substantial economic development and quality of life contributions. Well, hey, if the Chinese deals are on hold, they got to do something. Oh, by the way, Mike Preston, the head of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, for the third or fourth year in a row, has been given a $50,000 bonus. That was in the news this morning. Well, so do you guys feel developed economically? I sure do. By that, as a taxpayer, I feel fleeced. Back in a minute.
And the killer used a lawfully owned suppressor, and then afterwards Trump was asked about suppressors, and he said he didn't like suppressors. And, this isn't the first time Trump has said or done something that's not necessarily pro-Second Amendment. So, that's kind of the battle, and we've launched several email alerts and action alerts motivating our members to urge Trump to not ban suppressors. Because, suppressors are already heavily regulated by the NFA. There's FBI background checks, fingerprinting, de facto waiting period, registration, taxes. They're already very regulated objects, and none of that gun control stopped that evil shooter from shooting up what was in effect a gun-free zone. You know, and like what we always say is we need to let people carry guns and shoot back. And sadly, down in Virginia Beach, that wasn't the case, and that's why he was able to do so much evil. Not because he had a suppressor or magazines, it's because no one over there to shoot back.
So does the ability to get a suppressor, the hoops you have to jump through, does that vary from state to state, or is there a national standard?
So you know, all suppressors are regulated by the National Firearms Act of the NFA, and that requires, you know, fingerprinting, FBI background checks, registration, tax stamps, everything I just listed. States may add additional regulations, and of course that would vary from state by state. You know, but it's much more of a process than just going to your local gun store and buying a gun, which he did, and he passed background checks. So that's just all the gun control that, you know, the antis are pushing has just completely failed in that shooting. So yeah, it is certainly much more difficult to get a suppressor than a normal firearm.
Yeah, you know, logically here, I mean, we know what the argument is. They want to take our guns. I mean, and if you follow their logic, because of what you just listed, Jordan, this is just a slow encroachment where, you know, they're hoping that just to consistently move that line to where they can take the guns. Because, I mean, logically, you're always going to have immoral people that are going to find a way to break the law. And that's what we're dealing with here. And so that's why I want to be armed, and that's why I am armed, because I don't want to, you know, do something unlawful with my weapon, but I want to have it to protect myself or maybe even to help somebody else. You know, God forbid there's one of these tragedies.
I completely agree with you there, and you know, a lot of people are calling for a ban on extended magazines or what they call so-called high-capacity magazines. Well, my response to that is I don't want the government telling me how many rounds I
The intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, welcome back. 870-275-9799 is the telephone number if you would like to contribute to the conversation. Also, I'm going to get right back to that Democrat debate, but I have to remind you of something. This story here, again from the Arkansas Times, headline: Hutchinson plea agreements filed detail legislative influence peddling. That phrase, influence peddling, you need to go back to 2015. And there was a Conduit for Action article called The Cure for Influence Peddling in the state of Arkansas. And this was back in 2015, where we had names like Jake Files, Jeremy Hutchinson, and others. And it would be worth your time to go to conduitforaction.org and just search for influence peddling on the sidebar there, or you could Google influence peddling Conduit for Action. It's going to come right up. And actually go back and listen, go read the list of names that were in that document, The Cure for Influence Peddling in the state of Arkansas. And you get a real picture for how long the media and people in politics, we all knew what was going on, right? But those who had the power to do something about it, I mean, people like Conduit or organizations like Conduit were sounding the alarm. You know, we're basically Paul Revere. The British are coming. I mean, we're trying to tell as many people as we can about what's going on. But the political class just assumes nothing will ever happen. And it did. It took it took the FBI a long time to get involved to get where we are today. I mean, I'm thankful that the Justice Department pursued charges, and I think there's more to come out of all of this, but just go read that list. Again, the cure for influence peddling in the state of Arkansas, and it was back in, I believe, in 2015 is when that article came out. Telephone number 870-275-9799. Let's go back to the Democrat debates from last night. Private health insurance, yes or no? This was actually, I'm glad they asked this question. I thought it was fair to ask, considering they want socialized medicine, the Democrat Party. Listen.
Here would abolish their private health insurance in favor of a government-run plan. Just a show of hands, start off with. All right, well, Senator Klobuchar, let me put the question to you. You're one of the Democrats who wants to keep private insurance in addition to a government health care plan. Why is an incremental approach, in your view, better than a sweeping overhaul?
Well, I think it's a bold approach. It's something that Barack Obama wanted to do when we were working on the Affordable Care Act, and that is a public option. I am just simply concerned about kicking half of America off of their health insurance in 4 years, which is exactly what this bill says. So let me go on beyond that. There is a much bigger issue in addition to that, and that is pharmaceuticals. The president literally went on TV, on Fox, and said that people's heads would spin when they see how much he would bring down pharmaceutical prices. Instead, 2,500 drugs have gone up in double digits since he came into office. Instead, he gave $100 billion in giveaways to the pharma companies. For the rest of us, for the rest of America, that's what we call at home, all foam and no beer. We got nothing out of it. And so my proposal is to do something about pharma, to take them on, to allow negotiation under Medicare, to bring in less expensive drugs from other countries. And pharma thinks they own Washington. Well, they don't own me.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Okay. Well, there you go. That, yep, there you go. All foam and no beer. That's just an all foam and no beer. You can trust me. Yeah, I did. I just made that up on the spot. I'm just sorry. I'm sorry. To me, it just it's so obvious, right? It's like yeah, it's just like oh man, what a down home woman she seems like. She seems like someone you could have a beer with. She made an alcohol reference. That's like the last person I would want to hang out with. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to have a beer with Elizabeth Warren either, because she did that Instagram live where she was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna pop up on a cold one here on this. What is this? What is this? Is this the internet's? Is that what this is? Hey guys." She turns to her husband like, "Thank you for being here." Well, where else would he be? Where else would he be, Lizzie? Okay, so, by the way, just a little more information on this idea of health care. Donald Trump is hitting the healthcare industry, the price gougers, where it hurts. He issued an executive order, demanding that hospitals display their prices. And do you know what happened when he issued this order? Can you take a guess? Insurance companies took a huge hit in the stock market. Why? Because this is a big scam. And now you're going to hear the left say, people on the left say, well, this might mean higher prices. No, listen, you go look up the doctor in Oklahoma. We've interviewed him, the Oklahoma Surgery Center. It is painful. I mean, it's very obvious that it's a giant scam what's been going on with insurance companies, hospitals, and how they rig their pricing, okay? Now, here in Arkansas, we've got an even bigger problem with Medicaid expansion, because we're guaranteeing Blue Cross and Blue Shield a 20% profit the $620 a month that we're paying for Medicaid expansion per person, so 230,000 people times $620 a month times 12 times times 2%, you're looking at like $320 million or something like that, I think, in terms of the amount of profit that we're guaranteeing. It may be more than that we're guaranteeing Blue Cross Blue Shield a year, because it's written in the law that they must make a 20% profit. And this is when no one has been treated. No one has gone to the doctor. It's just to pay for a piece of paper, an insurance card that we give people who are on this welfare program. It makes no financial sense at all. The state of Arkansas, knowing that they can't defend Medicaid expansion anymore, it is an untenable argument. So the government, the big government, the bureaucrats, those who want to continue giving Arkansas tax dollars and federal tax dollars to Blue Cross Blue Shield, they are now coming out and saying, your Arkansas government is coming out and saying that if we were to switch for a fee-for-service traditional Medicaid, which is now on paper easily proven mathematically would save the taxpayers a gargantuan amount of money, they're now saying if we switch for fee-for-service, Arkansas gets hit with a $200 million cost. Well, guess what? Right now, we're doing all of this to give the insurance companies way more than that. So we would have saved, and I was hearing State Representative Dan Sullivan talk about this the other night. Even if that is true, that they've now made up this phony argument that it'll cost us $200 million if we switch for fee-for-service, well, we still save like $150 million because we're giving Blue Cross Blue Shield, $300-400 million a year in profit. And it's mandated in the law that they've got to get 20% profit. This was you talk about a healthcare scam. That's what this was. It was a giant scam. And so these Democrats talking about, and then Donald Trump saying, hey, I want pricing transparency at hospitals, and I want to know what the insurance companies are really, I want to know what your agreements are. And when he makes the executive order, health companies and insurance companies' stocks take a dive. I think I know who's on the side of the average American, let me tell you. All right, next up, let's go to, who else we got here? Elizabeth Warren on the economy. Well, we might as well get to the socialism, right? We haven't really talked about it that much. Elizabeth Warren is clueless as to how this economy is really going, but let's listen to her anyway from last night at the Democrat debate.
You have many plans: free college, free childcare, government health care, cancellation of student debt, new taxes, new regulations, the breakup of major corporations. But this comes at a time when 71% of Americans say the economy is doing well, including 60% of Democrats. What do you say to those who worry this kind of significant change could be risky to the economy?
So I think of it this way. Who is this economy really working for? It's doing great for a thinner and thinner slice at the top. It's doing great for giant drug companies. It's just not doing great for people who are trying to get a prescription filled. It's doing great for people who want to invest in private prisons, just not for the African Americans and Latinx whose families are torn apart, whose lives are destroyed, and whose communities are ruined. It's doing great for giant oil companies that want to drill everywhere, just not for the rest of us who are watching climate change bear down upon us. When you've got a government, when you've got an economy that does great for those with money and isn't doing great for everyone else, that is corruption, pure and simple. We need to call it out. We need to attack it head on, and we need.
I don't even know. What was the question? This is now, Brent on Facebook. The Democratic debate. I think that is probably better. The Democratic debate. Oh my goodness! Really? Does she really believe that? I mean, she's a socialist, so she has to. So do we have crazy Bernie and Joe Biden are on the stage tonight with a bunch of other people I've never heard of? Apparently, the state of Arkansas Googled Cory Booker the most last night. In terms of, if you're going to, if you're going to Google somebody during a debate, it pretty much means you don't know anything about them. So you're essentially watching the debate and you're saying, who is that guy? Who's Cory Booker? And you Google him. The same thing happened with Tulsi Gabbard. But on a national trend. No one knew who Tulsi Gabbard was, but they thought she was making good points. Or, I'm assuming that's why you would Google somebody.
Yeah, I found that map that I showed you earlier.
Yes.
And pretty much every state, from Arkansas all the way to the rest of the East Coast and down. So
in South,
just pretty much the nice, solid South box there from
SEC.
Yeah, SEC country. Pretty much all of those states were all pretty much Cory Booker. And then everywhere else was littered with Tulsi Gabbard, except for like maybe.
We can't even say her last name. Tulsi.
Well, I have no idea who she is, so I'm like trying to look at the articles to see her name.
I remember seeing her. The only thing I know about Tulsi Gabbard, literally the only thing I know about her, is that I feel like when it came time when we almost went to war in Syria. How many times have we almost gone to war in Syria? I feel like she was, she was totally against that, which was odd to me because you had a lot of established. You have these moments when it comes to a lot of times. I think this is diminishing, but you would have these moments where the idea of going to war, you end up with this strange unity of Democratic leadership and Republican leadership, kind of pushing for it. At least I've noticed that, in the 10 years I've been in talk radio. Oh, next. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's go to communist Bill de Blasio, the New York City mayor. It doesn't really matter. De Blasio, eh. Yeah, like it's like Christine Blasey Ford. Go ahead. Let's
in the United States, but it's also one of the cities in the country with the greatest gap between the wealthy and the poor. How would you address income inequality?
Well, we've been addressing income inequality in New York City by raising wages, by raising benefits, by putting money back in the hands of working people. $15 minimum wage, paid sick days, pre-K for all, things making a huge difference in working people's lives. But let me tell you, what we're hearing here already in the first round of questions is that battle for the heart and soul of our party. I want to make it clear. This is supposed to be the party of working people. Yes, we're supposed to be for a 70% tax rate on the wealthy. Yes, of course, we're supposed to be for free college, free public college for our young people. We're supposed to break up big corporations when they're not serving our democracy. This Democratic Party has to be strong and bold and progressive. And in New York, we've proven that we can do something very different. We can put money back in the hands of working people. And let me tell you, every time you talk about investing in people and their communities, you hear folks say there's not enough money. What I say to them every single time is there's plenty of money in this world. There's plenty of money in this country. It's just in the wrong hands. We Democrats have to fix that.
The words of a complete moron.
Someone who clearly doesn't know what's going on. His people.
There's always plenty of money. That's not true.
That's true.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The fact that his people, the Democratic Party of New York, state of New York, there's a specific section of them that put, what's her name? Oh, yeah. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They put her in office. Who, words alone, no actions, no legislation, words alone.
Yep.
Made Amazon think twice about opening up a facility there.
Yeah, and they pulled out. It cost the state a lot of jobs.
Which means a lot of money, too.
Interesting. Yeah, they want those. Honestly, they would just be better off if the corporations were abolished and the state provided the employment. That's what they want. That's what Ocasio-Cortez wants in the Green New Deal. It said in there remember in the initial draft, it said a guaranteed income regardless whether you work or not. Remember that? And this is what they want. But the thing that stuck out with me about Bill de Blasio was, first of all, there was a time in the Democrat Party where this ideology would have never ever made it to any sort of national stage. the idea of like there's plenty of money out there. There's always plenty of money. No, there's not. We don't live in a world of infinite resources. It would be nice if we did, but what all money is a means of exchange to keep track of how many homes were built. It's a means of to keep up with economic transaction. How many homes were built? How many cars were sold? And and your prosperity is only determined based on access to resources and hard work. And who has better ideas than other cultures or other countries or whatever. And that's what it is. It's not. Now, if you just believe that money is a printing press and paper that you can just print as much, then and there are people that believe that, and quite honestly, with the way our debt situation is, most of those people on that stage believe that we've got a $20+ trillion national debt and nothing bad's happened to them, so why not run it up to 40, 100? Like, they don't care because they do believe there's plenty of money. It's just in the wrong hands. It's very irresponsible. And, Republicans need to do a better job, quite honestly, talking more about our fiscal situation. We used to talk about it a lot, and we don't anymore. Telephone number is 870-275-9799. Coming up, when we come back from break, tell you how you can win this book right here in my hand, Sacred Duty, A Soldier's Tour at Arlington National Cemetery by Senator Tom Cotton. Senator Cotton will be on the program coming up at 7:05 to talk about this fantastic book, Sacred Duty. We'll be back in just a moment.
Are you a conservative-minded young person and want to let the world know about it? Are you tired of rolling your eyes as your professor regurgitates progressive, PC, neo-Marxist nonsense? Then you should interview on Conduit News Radio's Young Conservative segment and tell us about why you believe the way you do. Tell us how you came to be a conservative and what are your views on government. Now, if you're worried that your neo-Marxist professor may also be a right-wing talk radio listening masochist, then names can be changed to protect the innocent. It's the Conduit News Radio Conservative segment. To be interviewed, call 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
I need to defend myself because I don't know if I'm going to be attacked by how many people or their state of mind. I need as many rounds to protect myself as I choose. It should be my decision. If I want to have 30 rounds, I want to have 30 rounds. And, just the whole debate, it really goes back when you let people carry guns, when you expand firearms freedom, we're safer. So, we don't have to trade our liberty for security. We can have both.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're talking with Jordan Stein. He's the Director of Communications for Gun Owners of America. It's a grassroots organization, represents more than 1.5 million gun owners and activists. Jordan, real quick, on the suppressor situation, again, it's not a silencer, right? But, a lot of times people are going to call them silencer. We're using the term suppressor. But in Hollywood, and listen, I like a good action movie just like the next guy, but these silencers portrayed in Hollywood.
Exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right. We're about to be interviewing We're about to be interviewing Senator Tom Cotton about his book, Sacred Duty, Soldier's Tour at Arlington National Cemetery. I got 2 books to give away. I'm going to give one away right now to caller number 1, 870-275-9799. Caller number 1, Sacred Duty, Tom Cotton's book, 870-275-9799. It's fantastic. And it has been, I mean, the pictures here. Look at this photo here of Arlington National Cemetery. These headstones here. Right there. It's really nice. So we'll be interviewing Senator Cotton here coming up at 7:05, so you do not want to miss that. It'll be great to talk to him, as it always is great to talk to him. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, man, I'm telling you what, I am so frustrated. Let me just say here, like, I am so frustrated with this investigation. Let me just say this. The entire state of Arkansas is still trying to wrap their head around what happened concerning the murder of former Senator Linda Collins. And there is, obviously, they have one suspect in custody charged with capital murder, who is, I didn't know this, the fiance of Tim Loggins. Tim went on Good Morning America yesterday and gave an interview, and I know many of you have seen this interview, where he says, and what I was surprised at, I mean, ABC News and Good Morning America, they seem skeptical about what's going on concerning this investigation because there's still a gag order. It's been this whole thing has been incredibly difficult to report on with any sort of certainty because the government is not releasing the information that you would normally get in a case like this. And it's not just me that's frustrated with this. I mean, there's the personal stakes in this are really high because Linda was a friend of mine, and she's a friend of so many. You've got Senator Alan Clark. Senator Alan Clark has been on Facebook many times, growing increasingly frustrated with what's been going on in terms of the lack of information coming out on the case and the investigation and everything else. But, in that Good Morning America interview, it's everywhere. Arkansas Times has a piece about it. A headline, fiance of Linda Collins murder. Suspect defends her in ABC interview. So that would be the person they have under arrest, Becky O'Donnell. And he says Tim went on national television and defended her, saying that there's no way that this happened because they were best friends. And he said, they're like sisters. And then he says, unless she is the best actress in the world and a complete sociopath and she fooled me, there is no way that she did this. But so here's the thing. I honestly don't know. Until we get more information, this is incredibly difficult to report on. And I mean not rumors, not anonymous sources, but actual facts. And the government is going to have to do something at some point in terms of releasing information. Surely are they going to sit on all this until the trial? But I mean, we know that the late Senator Collins, we know that she was murdered, but do we know exactly how she was murdered? Does the government know exactly how she was murdered? Because I'll tell you something, rumors are flying. So I'm incredibly frustrated. I share the frustration of a lot of Arkansas politicians and friends of Linda.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
They're not realistic, are they?
No, not in the least bit. If you're only heard suppressors through TV shows and movies, then you have a very poor representation of what they actually are. Fortunately, with my job is I actually get to shoot guns with suppressors quite often, and when we do that, I'm still using ear protection because it's still a loud noise. So, it's not like they completely silence the gun. They typically just bring it just under the hearing safe level.
So there you go. And so we have, once again, with the suppressor issue, we have an education problem. We've got the left, the liberals who already are terrified of guns. For the most part, your average person, just because they probably aren't around them, they don't see them as tools. They see them as, I say, sentient beings that float around killing people, at will. And so we have that issue, and then we're going to also have a total lack of perception when it comes to a suppressor. They don't really know what they're talking about. They don't know the difference between a clip and a magazine.
Exactly, and the ironic thing is that in other countries who have far more gun control than what we do in the U.S. is, suppressor use is actually encouraged. That they, it's almost like you buy your gun and then you get your suppressor to go along with it in those, very gun-controlled countries. So it's just so ironic that what really amounts to a piece of metal with baffles in it is such a demonized object in the country.
How does Gun Owners of America, how are you guys weaving through, or your supporters, or how do you feel, Jordan, about President Trump? Because obviously, he has done some great things for this country. Even in his first year, the Heritage Foundation said he accomplished more than Ronald Reagan, and there's really great things happening. And yet, it seems like kind of everybody's holding their breath and just kind of waiting for President Trump to maybe become more of a liberal on the issue of gun rights, or maybe even other issues. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Certainly, Trump has done great things in other issues, but when it comes to guns, he's certainly been, at least in my view, a disappointment. He campaigned on saying the 8-year assault on the Second Amendment is over. Well, that's not been the case, at least from GOA's perspective, because, as we talked about last time, there was the whole bump stock ordeal where he, essentially wrote them out of law to own, which we're suing him over. He nominated anti-gunners to various positions, like to the ATF director and to the Ninth Circuit. He signed Fix Mix, which was a background extension bill, essentially. So it's kind of been disappointing, and that's not to say he hasn't done some pro-gun things. He has always support for arming teachers and having people shooting back, and he did unsign the UN Arms Treaty. So those are some pro-gun things, but at least in my view, he hasn't lived up to the hype on the campaign trail.
So obviously, he's going to be the Republican nominee. So, and I guess there's got to be some. The only thing to do would be to encourage him to be better, right? That's what I would say. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we have to keep his feet to the fire, and I think Trump will need to realize that a good majority of the reason why he won was because of the Second Amendment voter, was because of the single-issue voter who only cares about gun rights, and they voted for him. And right now, and I take these calls to GOA every day, people are upset. Like, I voted for this guy, but now he's betraying us. And I hear this every day from our members, and I think he needs to go back and actually do something for the Second Amendment, or go back on some of the other things he's done to try to make amends with the gun rights community, because I know, many in the community are very upset.
Yeah, well, I definitely think, with 2020 coming up, he's going to be looking at his campaign and himself. They're going to be looking at every major constituent group, certainly Second Amendment people. If that's your number one issue, they are among, that's a demographic there. And so you would assume at least Jordan, there would be lip service. I know that's not what we want, right? We want actual action, or in the case of like banning bump stocks, in action.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. and I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, folks. Hey, welcome to the program. This is hour number 2, the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine here. Hey, welcome back to the program. We got on the line Senator Tom Cotton is with us this morning. Tom, how are you, sir?
Hey, it's good to be back on with you. Hope all is well.
Absolutely. So your book here, Sacred Duty. We've already given one copy away, by the way, today to a listener. His name is Tim Simmons. You know where he's from, Joe? Brooklyn, Arkansas. Okay. Sacred Duty, a soldier's tour at Arlington National Cemetery. Senator Cotton, why did you write this book?
Paul, I wrote Sacred Duty because I wanted to share the story of the Old Guard of Arlington, the young men and women whose job it is to perform military honor funerals for our fallen heroes, for our veterans, or guard the tomb of the unknown soldier, or perform the world-famous ceremonies in the Capital Region. Because I can see from the Arkansans who visit me in Washington just what a special place Arlington holds in their hearts and the hearts of all Americans. I started with the Old Guard between my tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, but it wasn't really until I got to Congress that I appreciated just what a special place it is, because of all the Arkansans that visit me, thousands every year, when I ask them what the highlight of their trip has been, they almost always say going to Arlington National Cemetery. It's very striking to me, and there's never really been a good book to tell the story of the Old Guard, the soldiers whose duty is to perform those missions inside of Arlington, and I want to share that story with all of our fellow citizens.
So, as someone who was a member of the Old Guard and worked with this unit, what is it like, Senator Cotton, to perform a funeral at Arlington?
Well, as I say in Sacred Duty, every funeral is special and unique. Even though the Old Guard might perform 20 to 30 funerals a day, so each of us might have performed 6 or 7 personally each day. But we know that for every family and veteran or fallen hero, that funeral is a once-in-a-lifetime moment, and it's a lifetime in the making. So what might appear repetitive from the outside looking in, we understood was, in fact, the first and the only funeral that family would have. So we took them all with the same level of seriousness and the same dedication to duty, the same single standard, perfection, whether it was for a 4-star general or a private that served bravely in the Korean War, or the most poignant of all funerals, those young heroes who had just laid down their life a few days earlier in Iraq or Afghanistan.
Yeah. What's your most memorable funeral? Do you have one?
As I write in the first chapter in Sacred Duty, while all funerals are equally important, they're not the same by any means. The Old Guard goes out every morning and recons the grave sites to ensure there's no surprise when the family arrives. So we can identify things like trees that might impede marching on to the into the lawn, carrying the flags, or a steep hill up or down which the casket team had to carry the casket. So every funeral is different. But the one that stands out in my mind most, as I say in Sacred Duty, because it was so different, was a group burial for the crew and passengers of EZ-40, a helicopter that was shot down in Baghdad in January of 2007, shortly before I arrived at the Old Guard. Army forensic specialists spent many months trying to identify all of the individual remains, and they did a great job of that. But ultimately, there were some unidentifiable and commingled remains. And as the Army custom has it, we had a group burial for all 12 of those crew and passengers, and I participated in that funeral. In fact, there were 3 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who were buried that day in Arlington, with 3 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who were buried that day in Arlington, with 3 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who were buried that day in Arlington, with 3 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who were buried that day in Arlington, with 3 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who were buried that day in Arlington, with 3 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who were buried that day in Arlington, with 3 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who were buried that day in Arlington, with 3 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who were buried that day in Arlington, with 3 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who were buried that day in Arlington, with 3 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who were buried that day in Arlington, with 3 members of the Arkansas National Guard, who were buried that day in Arlington, with 3 hundreds and hundreds of family and friends and battle buddies, senior military commanders, a large media contingent. It was just probably the biggest funeral I can recall happening in my time at the Old Guard, and from the research I did last year, probably the biggest funeral that's happened since then as well.
Wow. Yeah, that certainly is one that I understand why you've committed that one to memory. Tell us about a Dover mission. What is a Dover mission?
So most of your listeners have probably seen those iconic photographs of the flag-draped cases that carry the remains of our fallen heroes from Iraq or Afghanistan. Dover Air Force Base, Port Mortuary, where those planes land. And starting in 2003, at the start of the Iraq War, it fell to the Old Guard to perform dignified transfer of remains, or, as I say in sacred duty, as we came to know them inside the Old Guard, as a Dover mission. And unfortunately, when I arrived, right before the surge reached its height, we were performing Dover missions essentially every night. So 3 or 4 nights a month, it would be my duty day to fly up to Dover with a 6-man casket team and a general officer as the VIP escort and perform those Dover missions. I was the officer in charge, meant I was the first soldier on the aircraft, and I was part of the team that carried the remains off of the aircraft. It's a very, like I said, very poignant and sobering moment when you're carrying off the remains of your comrades in arms who, in some cases, had been killed just hours beforehand. And I did dozens of those Dover missions, sometimes just one case, sometimes as many as 19 cases.
We're talking with Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton. His book, Sacred Duty, A Soldier's Tour at Arlington National Cemetery. Let me ask you this. Has the Old Guard ever fought in a battle, or have they always just been strictly a ceremonial unit?
Oh, no, they've got a very long and distinguished history on the battlefield. The Old Guard is the oldest regiment in the Army. In fact, they predate the Constitution by 3 years. They were stood up in 1784, and they fought in every major conflict from then until World War II. And they fought in some of the nation's iconic battles, like both battles of Bull Run or Battle of Gettysburg. But in 1948, after 160 years on the front lines, the Army assigned its oldest regiment to its most sacred ground. And for the last 71 years, they've been performing that mission in Arlington. Now, that's not to say that they've only performed that mission in Arlington. One contingency mission they perform is rapid response in the capital region. So, for instance, in 1968, after rioting broke out following Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, they helped perform crowd control and also to receive and equip troops that were coming into the capital region to restore order. Or more recently, on 9/11, the Pentagon is only a couple hundred yards across the street from Arlington, and for all those soldiers who weren't performing funerals on 9/11, they took off their ceremonial uniform and put on their combat fatigues and rushed down there to provide security and aid to the walking wounded. And sadly, in the days that followed, the recovery of remains was a very tough and dangerous sight. In some ways, you might say they were the first soldiers to deploy to a battlefield on the new in a new kind of war.
Wow. You also write, or again, we're talking with Senator Cotton, you write about the history of Arlington itself, the connections to George Washington and Robert E. Lee. What can you tell us about that?
Sure. That land seems like it may have been fated by some secret design of Providence to become our national cemetery. Many people know, and they will hear about the connection to Robert E. Lee when they go to Arlington or read about it, but I want to take a step back to tell you just how much farther it goes. For the first half of the 19th century, Arlington was known commonly as Washington's Treasury. And the reason for that is it was originally purchased when it was just virgin forest and farmland in 1778 by George Washington's adopted son, Martha Washington, natural-born son by her deceased first husband. He did that because he wanted to raise his family closer to his parents. Unfortunately, he died shortly after the Battle of Yorktown, and left a 6-month-old heir. And that young boy was raised as well by George and Martha Washington, who he revered throughout his life. So when Martha died in 1802, and he inherited what is now Arlington, he moved there, and he actually called it Mount Washington at first. He later changed his name to Arlington after an ancestral family estate. But he spent much of his life commemorating the legacy of his great father. And that home that's built up on the cliffs is a model of Mount Vernon. And he actually operated Arlington at a deficit much of his life because he spent so much money on Washington memorabilia and relics and heirlooms. And then in 1831, his only daughter, Mary Custis, married another young military officer, Robert E. Lee. And that's where they made their home in the winter times when Robert E. Lee wasn't assigned all around the country for 30 years. But when Robert E. Lee was offered command of the Union Army and declined in April 1861, he resigned his commission and left for Richmond, and then Mary Custis Lee followed him a few weeks later. And the Union Army crossed the Potomac River on May 24th, 1861, and occupied that ground. They've held it every day since then.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I know you know, as a student of history, as a soldier, Senator Cotton, I mean, this had to be a book that you enjoyed writing. I'm not really sure how you had time to do it, given your day job, but what was it like interviewing members of the regiment in which you served, you know, while you're also, you know, having to be in Washington working for the people?
Let's just say I had a lot more fun last year spending more time again around soldiers than I did politicians in Congress. So a lot of the work had to be at night after Gabriel and Daniel went to sleep, or on the weekends. A lot of work on airplanes back and forth. But it was a real pleasure to be back among young soldiers. You know, the privates, the sergeants, the lieutenants, who we count to get the job done for us. And that's true whether they're defending us overseas or whether they're representing us and the love we feel for our fallen heroes in the fields of Arlington. So it was a lot of work, but also it was a real pleasure to be back among soldiers so many times, to get to know so many of them. You know, just a couple days ago, one of the battalion commanders there had a change of command, and I was present there, and I took my son to it. Taking my son to other events this summer, now that he's getting old, a little bit older to understand slightly what's going on there, and to watch some of these soldiers that continued on, you know, earn their tomb badge, their tomb guard, or gone off to Ranger School and earned their Ranger tab. It's really been a lot of fun.
The book, again, Senator Tom Cotton's book, Sacred Duty, A Soldier's Tour at Arlington National Cemetery. Tom, this was your first book. Most politicians are going to write an autobiography. They're going to write a policy-based book, but you didn't. You did this. Why'd you do it?
I wanted to write a book that people would want to read and find interesting. You know, mostly, as you say, most politicians, especially some of those Democrats you saw on stage last night, they write a book that could just be entitled "My Story" every time, and their stories that they were born in a log cabin that they built with their own two hands. But as I said, I wanted to tell the old guard story. It's never been told before. I thought that people would enjoy reading it, and I'm very grateful for the friendly feedback I've gotten so far. And hope all your listeners have a chance to pick it up and enjoy it as well.
Absolutely. Senator Tom Cotton, we appreciate it so much. Thanks for spending time with us this morning, and look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Thanks so much.
All righty. Tom Cotton, everybody. We're going to give away one more copy of this book to the third caller. It's, again, Sacred Duty, Senator Tom Cotton. We've got one more book to give away, 870-275-9799. Caller number 3, this book is yours. All you got to do is call, 870-275-9799. Back in just a moment. Just leave us alone, leave our guns alone. But, hey,
so
you would think that's
you just answer and say, I'm sorry, you're caller number 1.
The lip service.
Yeah, you would think so, and I would hope to see he actually does some more things. I mean, like I said, him unsigning the UN Arms Treaty was something that he did, but that's, a very easy thing to do. That's not really sticking your neck out on the line. And from what I know from kind of being near the swamp is there's a lot of factions in the White House. You have Don Jr., who's certainly more of a pro-gunner, and yet you have maybe the Ivanka Jared wing of the White House, who's probably a little less pro-gun. He's being pushed and pulled by those wings as well. So I'm sure that's influencing him.
Yeah, they should go out and shoot some guns. I mean, I wonder, that should be if you're gonna talk about, a very hot topic, a very popular political issue or a controversial issue.
Hey, folks, it's me, Paul Harrell. I want to say hello to everybody out there who's listening. We appreciate you and your support, especially those listening on KFPW, the Marshall out of Fort Smith, 96.7 FM, 1230 AM. For all of our listeners, if you ever missed the program, you can get us online at conduitnews.com, facebook.com/conduitnews, or our YouTube channel. Just search for Conduit News and be sure to click the subscribe button and click the little bell to receive notifications. Here at Conduit News Radio, we provide you multiple ways to listen to your #1 source for Arkansas news and politics. ConduitNews.com. Let's face it, times are tough for the Arkansas General Assembly. They're all waiting for the spotlight exposing public corruption to end, so they won't be under so much scrutiny. And during this time, what if you're a legislator and you need money? What if you're slapped with a huge expense? What if your check for consultant services is late this month? Or maybe you just need extra cash now until payday. When that happens, you can't wait. Hi, I'm Bobby Blackmail for the Arkansas Intra-Legislator Bank, your trusted source to over 135 lenders to get you short-term cash fast. Use the Arkansas Intra-Legislator Bank today. You can have up to $12,500 cash in your checking account tomorrow. Dried up bribes no longer coming from Medicaid entities? Handled. Extra cash until your hopeful acquittal? Done. And you'll be surprised at how easy it is to get extra cash. Just be an elected official and be comfortable with the status quo, and we'll connect you with a fellow legislator who is ready to loan. It's quick and easy. And don't worry if you can't make the payments, because the Arkansas Intra-Legislator Bank is designed to help you get through these tough economic times. There are other ways you can pay off your debt, like by voting the way the establishment wants, or by rewarding some with committee chairmanships. So forget about overdraft fees and the spirit of covetousness that sometimes overwhelms the best of lawmakers. Just remember, the Arkansas Intra-Legislator Bank for short-term cash between colleagues when you need it fast.
Some transactions have long-term consequences.
Paul Harrell, parody.
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Phone lines are jammed, but we gave the second book away. We gave it away. Hey, can you pull the music down? Congratulations to Jason, who lives in Bono, Arkansas. He has just won this copy of Sacred Duty, A Soldier's Tour at Arlington National Cemetery, Senator Tom Cotton's book. He was just on the program. If you missed him, you can get it. Go to the Conduit News YouTube page, and you want to subscribe to the channel and click the little bell to receive notifications, because we'll have just this a separate video of the interview with Senator Cotton coming up. So it'll be out later in the day. So anyway, it's really, really fantastic. Of course, when it came out a couple of weeks ago, it was probably a month ago or so, but it came out, the president tweeted about it. And of course, you had all these liberal detractors out there who were very upset that the president would tweet something about Senator Cotton's book. And yeah, really, they're just jealous that Trump didn't tweet about their book. But no, it's really good. And you guys are gonna like it. Go get the book and. Let's just go ahead and get to another real quick. We covered the Democrat Dumb-ocrat debate. Hey, speaking of dumb, did you know that Disney movie Dumbo? I saw that it was already on DVD. The live action. I think so. Yeah, I mean, I was like, man, what a terrible movie that must have been, right? Seems like it just had come out, and anyway, I had no desire to see it. But all these Disney remakes are really frustrating to me. It's a cash grab. All right. Anyway, Tulsi Gabbard last night, the most searched, the most Googled Democrat candidate from the debate last night. This is what she had to say about Afghanistan and being a soldier. Listen to this.
As disparate as President Obama and President Trump have both said that they want to end U.S. involvement in Afghanistan, but it isn't over for America. Why isn't it over? Why can't presidents of very different parties and very different temperaments get us out of there? And how could you?
I appreciate that question. So I've been in Congress 17 years. And 12 of those years, I've sat on the Armed Services Committee, either the Defense Appropriations Committee or the Armed Services Committee. And the lesson that I've learned over the years is that you have to stay engaged in these situations. Nobody likes it. It's long. It's tedious. But right now we have, so I would say we must be engaged in this. We must have our State Department engaged. We must have our military engaged to the extent they need to be. But the reality of it is this president doesn't even have people appointed in the State Department to deal with these things. Whether we're talking about Central America, whether we're talking about Iran, whether we're talking about Afghanistan, we've got to be completely engaged. And here's why. Because these flare-ups distract us from the real problems in the country. If getting drones shot down for $130 million because the president is distracted, that's $130 million that we could be spending in places like Youngstown, Ohio, or Flint, Michigan, or rebuilding.
Congresswoman Gabbard, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, actually, to jump off what he said. He described engagement as the problem. Is that what you will tell the parents of soldiers who were just killed in Afghanistan? Well, we just have to be engaged. As a soldier, I will tell you that answer is unacceptable. We have to bring our troops home from Afghanistan. We are in a place in Afghanistan where we have lost so many lives. We've spent so much money that's coming out of every one of our pockets, money that should be going into communities here at home, meeting the needs of the people here at home. We are no better off in Afghanistan today than we were when this war began. This is why it's so important to have a president and commander-in-chief who knows the cost of war and who's ready to do the job on day one. I am ready to do that job when I walk into the Oval Office. Thank you very much.
Listen, I'm gonna go down there's Tulsi Gabbard, the Democrat. Now, notice she had a touch of gray in her hair. Did you notice that? Oh, that's stylistic purposes. I know it's stylistic purposes, but it also conveys experience.
I have an issue with what she said.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the things what she said was that we need to bring troops home so we can spend less on the military, like what's going on overseas, like the military part of it, like the spending part of it, and so that we can focus on the communities here. Rough estimate, how many people do you think are in the military right now that are overseas that are going to be withdrawn?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, but we do spend a lot of money on defense spending. The Democrats have always been for eliminating defense spending.
I have no doubt that we spend more in defense spending than the next 10 countries behind us combined.
Which
still,
I'm all for, by the way.
Me too. But the thing is, my issue with what she said was bringing them back. So let's just say, what is it? What's a rough estimate in your mind would be a good?
Oh, you're talking to I'm the worst. I can't tell how many people are in the crowd. So
we'll say we'll say.
We can Google it.
Let's say 1 million people. We'll Google it during the break. But let's say 1 million people.
But okay.
I don't know. But you're wanting to inject. Okay, let's say 500,000. You're wanting to inject 500,000 people right from the military right back into the economy or right back into.
Oh, dude, U.S. military is over 1.3 and on active duty. 450,000 of them stationed overseas.
So 500,000. Let's say we bring all 500,000 back and inject them right back into the United States. We eliminate the defense spending that we need for having them overseas. Okay, let's say we put that back into cities. You just put 500,000 people back into the cities when we already can't take care of a lot of other people because of the spending that goes on other places when it comes to illegal immigration.
We got to take a break.
That's my thing. That's my issue with what she said.
Interesting. We got to take a break. Back in just a moment. That you can go experience for yourself. You know, it's something that it's it's not like let's say abortion or something like that, where that's something that only a woman can experience, or you know what I'm saying. But like this is something hey, go out and try it, see what you think about it. Go shoot some guns. And then you can formulate your own opinion on it. I mean, you would think that would at least be a prerequisite. I mean, I'm assuming they haven't shot guns, but they may have. But everybody that works in the White House, hopefully you would have, gone out, been familiar with what you're trying to regulate,
Yeah, well, I even know there's that famous picture of Obama shooting a double-barrel shotgun.
Yeah.
So he went keep shooting from time to time. Not that he was any pro-gun, but...
That's true. That's true. That's a good
point. But, I've seen where, Trump says he owns guns and that I believe he said he had a New York carry permit, which is, like, next to impossible for the average citizen to get, probably because he got it because he's probably rich and wealthy. It is certainly discouraging to see, continually battle after battle with Trump just caving in on some issues.
Well, at first, real quick, I know we got to go, but I was thinking, hey, we got the bump stock ban. This is going to buy him. This will buy him some goodwill with the people, and really and truly with those maybe in the middle, maybe those on the left, maybe there's some political calculations. And that's not the truth. I mean, if anything, it just buys him less hate. And so if you're going to get the hate regardless, and they're not going to like you anymore by doing it, you might as well just stick to the platform and just do what Trump does best, which is, walk or march to his own drum beat. And, so maybe there'll be a realization, hey, it's not really worth it. I mean, you're going to take all this heat in the press anyway, so why not just leave our Second Amendment rights alone,
Well, the Second Amendment isn't a piece on Donald Trump's 3D chessboard, right? I mean, the right to defend yourself isn't something we can just negotiate with. And I remember one of the Patron survivors at a rally said, she mentioned the bump stock ban. That bump stock ban, that's just the first step. We're taking all of them. That's just the start.
That.
So if you give them something, they're not going to stop. You can't appease them. That's why you can't throw them a bone like bump stocks or the background check system with NICS. You have to hold firm and say, no, we're not going to give an inch on our gun rights. We want the infringements you already on us repealed, and we're not going to stop it until that happens.
Yeah.
And that's what we do at GOA. We're not ever going to give an inch.
Yeah.
And that's what we aspire to do.
Jordan, it's a pleasure to have you on, sir. I always appreciate it. I also know...
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, folks, 870-275-9799. The telephone number, if you want to call or text and contribute to the program. Hey, welcome back to the program. We got on the phone line Gary S. Goldman back with us. He's a nationally recognized host of Business, Politics, and Lifestyles, which is a weekly talk show airing on WCRN 830 in the Metro Boston area. Gary, how are you, sir?
I'm doing excellent. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to have you back on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on. We have the Democrats debate last night. There was a whole lot of crazy, going on. But we recently have had even more. Let's kind of start. Let's go back. We had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez say that these camps at the border are concentration camps, and then she has, according to this headline, refused an invitation to visit Auschwitz. What were your thoughts on the events of last week?
Look, her comments were atrocious. I don't think anybody can deny that. I have family and friends, of my families that were killed in these concentration camps. So when I hear these types of comments, I look at someone like AOC and I say, hey, we can chalk it up to ignorance. And I'm not sure AOC really has an understanding of anything she talks about, but she surely doesn't have an understanding of what went on during the Holocaust and this particular time. Her refusal to go to the camp, to learn something does not surprise me, because everything about AOC has nothing to do with, with learning. It's all talking points. It's all trying to use metaphors to connect the dots that do not really connect, to just bring a subject matter into light, and she doesn't care about the collateral damage involved in what she does. And this is one particular situation where she's done that. And look, she usually can back her way out of it, and one way or another with more ridiculous comments. This one, I think she has herself in a little bind. But with the cycle in this country of crazy AOC comments lasting, no more than a few days, she'll be on to the next thing before everyone catches up on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I have been really, disappointed in is to see other members of the left take this outrageous comment and try to excuse it or agree with it in some way. Like, well, she raises a good point. Never again. And it's. I mean, like you said. I mean, you had family members who went through the Holocaust, and there's no comparison with what's going on at the southern border with the Holocaust.
I wrote some op-ed the other day, and I said the one point that many points she missed, but she missed a major point when it came to this conversation. Those coming to the border are doing so by will. Those that were rounded up obviously were not doing it by will. They ended up in these concentration camps. And, it doesn't surprise me whether it's AOC or just certain millennial groups. They use particular words. They don't care of how harmful those words may have been. In Boston yesterday, we have a company called Wayfair. I don't know if you saw this, the furniture company.
Yes.
They didn't like the fact that their company was selling beds to a government contractor that was trying to make people in these detention centers a little more comfortable. And they went out on strike, and they didn't want any part of this. The fact of the matter, they were using the word concentration camp. And I saw this, and I said, this is absolutely absurd, because the more we allow this type of behavior to go on, the worse it's going to get. Use the word that suits you, that you feel suits your, moment in time, whether you understand the real meaning of it. And trying to connect it with metaphors, to me, doesn't do any justice for a situation like this.
No, I completely agree, and it's absolutely a shame how reactive and people are, with Wayfair just trying to get beds down there and the stuff that they're going through. I will say this: the people on the left are at least acknowledging that there's an issue at the border, because the president said there was a crisis, and everybody gave speeches to that effect, and the left said no, there's not a crisis. And now we're being inundated with these photos. This one photo in particular of a father with his toddler daughter face down, inches from the border, dead. And I will tell you, Gary, I mean, the image obviously is tragic, it's disturbing, but with millennials, those on my Facebook, they really are reacting to this in an emotional way. And in so doing, I mean, some of them are just essentially calling for open borders because of what's going on right now, and that's not the answer.
No, that's that is a horrific picture. It's a horrific situation, but it does bring to light the danger that the president's been talking about.
Yes.
To back up one step, the Democrats are now saying, yeah, we have a crisis at the border, but I think we got to be careful, because their definition of the crisis and who caused the crisis is helpful that they're acknowledging it, but it may not be helpful in the manner they're not still really dealing with what is going on at the border. Opening the border up is not going to do anyone any good. It's not going to do this country any good. Look, my daughter's in that millennial age, and last night her and I had a very heated debate about that particular picture. Not that I don't have empathy for the family, but look, I got to be honest with you. I blame a parent that puts their child in that type of danger has to hold some of the culpability in that particular case.
Yeah. No, I agree. And there are people on Facebook, though, when you bring that point up, they say, but wouldn't you do the same thing? Wouldn't you, if you were trying to, get a better life in America, wouldn't you do the same thing? Well, I'm not so sure I would, number one. Right. Number two, I do hold out that some of these immigrant families are being given misinformation, in an effort to come here. There's also the sex trafficking angle. But, there's some, I will tell you this, there are some of these immigrants that want to come to this country and leave their children here and go, you know what I mean, with the whole anchor baby situation. And now, to me, that's very odd, because I'm not sure what parent would want to do that, would want to leave their family here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And, and I think you're right. They may be being sold the wrong bill of goods to come to this country. And, look at the Democrats, all the last few days, especially ramping up to these obnoxious, crazy debates, is the great American giveaway. Every one of them, what do we want to give away? What do we want to give away? And when we talk about immigration, I was thinking of this morning. We bring all, they're okay, bring all these people into the country. It's a constant flow. Bring them in, more votes, whatever. But look drive around some of the cities and towns in your community. I don't know, and I do in my own community. And I look at people that are here illegally, that are waiting to, I'm not sure, hopefully they're thinking someday they're going to get, some sort of amnesty. They don't look like they're trying to do anything better for themselves. They don't look like anything better is happening for them. All we're doing is creating conditions that they've experienced. And I know sometimes when I say this, people get mad at me in their own countries, within certain cities and towns and neighborhoods within our country. And I don't see how that is bettering the United States of America. Nor should we open borders. What country just has open borders? Once you give up the sovereignty for your country, you control sovereignty through your border system. We cannot just have open borders and people walking in and out. And when we listen to these politicians just crying because they saw that picture, they should have been crying months ago when this conversation was first, really brought to light.
Yeah, on this whole situation with, and I keep harping on millennials because technically, I'm a millennial, although I'm barely one, and I don't like to be put in that category. But I think to myself, can you imagine what millennials would do today if we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? And if you go and you look at Truman's logic behind that, it was the fact that in order to take, the Pacific Theater, in order to actually do what we needed to do, it was going to cost a ridiculous amount of American lives going island by island. And it really gets down to, well, I've got this technology in the war right now. Okay, so and I don't have to sacrifice any more American lives. And it was this concept of, you know what? Honestly, because we're talking about Americans, it's not worth one American life if I can save American lives and end the war. That was the logic that was behind it, and what a decision it was. I'm glad that I didn't have to make the decision, but I think the right decision was made. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to make a direct comparison between that situation and the border, because obviously we're not talking about enemy combatants or anything else, but we are talking about the economic prosperity of Americans who are already here, and we are, we're talking about people who can't take care of themselves right now, who are Americans, and they're entitled to those services, in my opinion, before somebody who is not an American, because I still believe in the concept of a nation state, but yet, that seems to be offensive to some young people and those on the left today.
It's very offensive, and look at I know people through programs that I volunteer on, that their parents work. They work very hard. Kids share beds. They don't have a single bed, for each individual in their home, and we're willing to give taxpayer money. I mean, whether it's a government contract or not, it's irrelevant. It's our money to do this for those people that are trying to get in here. There's something wrong. There's something wrong with the whole thought process. But to get on to another point that you were talking about, could you imagine last week if the president did send missiles into Iran?
Wow.
And there were people killed? I mean, the backlash from millennials and groups like that this country would have been in turmoil for several days, if not weeks.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. The whole thought process is crazy.
Yeah, and on that, I mean, that was pretty incredible. That whole situation, the way it unfolded. I'm obviously glad that we didn't do it. I thought the president's logic. You see, he gets no credit for that, though. Like, I feel like that's kind of a middle of the road, if not left of center response. Being like, well, it was an unmanned drone. Nobody died. Why am I going to kill 150 people? And let's be honest,
right.
There might have been way more than 150 people. It could have been civilians. You don't know. And I thought, but of course the press gives him no credit. They said he was a warmonger, then they said he was weak. I mean, pick a side and stick with it, left.
Yeah, and well, that's their narrative every day. And exactly, if he did shoot the missiles and one person was killed, we would have heard how horrific a person he was. Then you heard how weak he was, but they do not give him credit. That took a lot of willpower. You know, when you have that power to, you know, defend what you feel is, you know, something that happened against this country, and he had the willpower not to do that. I give him a lot of credit, and I think it's all part of his master plan. I think, truthfully, behind doors, he's trying to get some communication open with the Iranians to resolve this, because, unfortunately, if something else happens, it may not turn out that way.
I agree, and, you know, I was listening to Senator Rand Paul say, you know, military confrontation is more likely. Then, of course, my foreign policy, the one I've always advocated is one, you know, not really a boots-on-the-ground foreign policy, but if you do have to do it, you send the planes over there. You send the plane over there. You bomb them back to the Stone Age, and you come home. And that seems to be what the president's mentality would be, at least at first, if we did get into a confrontation. But I'm like you, Gary. He does seem to be wanting the diplomatic route. He's kind of using the same line he used with North Korea in terms of Iran could be economically a very prosperous country, but they've just got to stop, you know, trying to get a nuclear weapon so they can hold a gun to the world's head. You know?
Yeah, and you know, I say this on a regular basis. Iran, who I feel is the largest subcontractor of terrorism in this world, they may not do it themselves, but they, you know, hire out third parties, and we had nothing to do with it. This all has to come to an end. It really all started with the hostage-taking years ago, and, you know, it's been many years now. Let's try and resolve this diplomatically, and hopefully they will get the message, because, look, we've been fighting in enough wars, but if we do, I'm exactly on the same page as you. We fight it through the air and from the sea, and if we have to at the end go in, you go in, and that's why I think it would be so devastating to that country.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think the president wants any sort of long foreign entanglement with boots on the ground, because he was so critical of the Iraq War. You know, and what it's, you know, which is what it's become, which is an ongoing war that doesn't ever seem to have an end. Some people think that's by design. Gary S. Goldman, we always appreciate you coming on the program, sir, and would love to do it again with you sometime.
Just give me a call. Have a great day.
All righty, you too, Gary. Be safe, sir. Folks, we're going to take a break, going to reset here. This is Conduit News Radio. We'll be back here in just a moment.
Are you a conservative-minded young person and want to let the world know about it? Are you tired of rolling your eyes as your professor regurgitates progressive, PC, neo-Marxist nonsense? Then you should interview on Conduit News Radio's Young Conservative segment and tell us about why you believe the way you do. Tell us how you came to be a conservative and what are your views on government. Now, if you're worried that your neo-Marxist professor may also be a right-wing talk radio listening masochist, then names can be changed to protect the innocent. It's the Conduit News Radio Conservative Future segment. To be interviewed, call 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
That this Saturday, the Patriots of Act 746 are having a luncheon at 2 p.m. at the Western Sizzlin in Fort Smith on Townsend Avenue, and the guest speaker is going to be the Arkansas Lieutenant Governor Tim Griffin. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I hope everyone can make it out to that. I'm sure that'd be a great time and some good food as well.
Absolutely. Hey, Jordan Stein, appreciate it. Director of Communications for Gun Owners of America, the website gunowners.org. It's always great to talk to you, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on.
Folks, once again, it's the Patriots VEX 746. Go to Facebook.com, search for the Patriots VEX 746. Ask to become a member of this group, trying to educate you about constitutional carry here in the state of Arkansas. Also, remember, they have a luncheon. That's this Saturday, June 29th at 2 p.m. at the Western Sizzlin on Townsend Avenue in Fort Smith. And the guest speaker is the Arkansas Lieutenant Governor, Tim Griffin. Back in just a moment.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
All right. Real quick, you want to know how the Democrat debate went last night. We played for you a lot of the clips last hour. But I got to rehash this one because this hopefully is foreshadowing to how the entire attempt of retaking the White House is going to go for the Democrats and the media. And by the way, this is an election where Donald Trump is running against the Democrats and the media. Listen to this. Here it is. Yes, go ahead, Joe.
Ground to cover, we're going to be talking about guns and climate here up top. A whole lot more in this hour. Obviously, because of the size of the field, not every person will be able to weigh in on everything, but over the course of this next hour, we will hear from everyone. I promise everybody. And to begin with, we're going to go with guns. And Senator Warren, I want to start with you. We are less than 50 miles from Parkland, Florida, where 17 people were killed in a school shooting last year, and where there has been significant activism on gun violence ever since. Many of you are calling for a restoration of an assault weapons ban. But even if implemented, there will still be hundreds of millions of guns in this country. Should there be a role for the federal government?
Their mics are on.
Everybody's mics are on. I think we have I heard that too. That's okay. I think we had a little mic issue in the back.
Control room, we've got contrary
I think we heard, we have the audience.
Shut up,
audio.
Chuck. Listen to Rachel.
All right.
She knows what
So the question is simply this.
Chuck was trying to mansplain
I
to Rachel.
apologize, you guys didn't get to hear this, the first part of the question. Obviously, we're not far from Parkland, Florida. Gun activism has become a big part of high school life up there in Broward County. Many of you are calling for tighter gun restrictions. Some of you are calling for the restoration of the assault weapons ban. But even if it's put in place, there's still going to be perhaps hundreds of millions of guns still on the streets. Is there a role for the federal government in order to get these guns off the streets?
Someone's got my binder.
Someone's got my binder.
What's happening?
We are hearing our colleagues' audio. If the control room could turn off the mics. Yeah, if the control room could turn off the mics of our previous moderators, we will.
I think it's the prior moderator.
You know, we prepared for everything.
Guess what, guys?
We did not prepare for this.
We are going to take a quick break. We're going to get this technical situation fixed. We will be right back.
Man, what an epic fail. I mean, I'm not saying I've never had technical difficulties. We've had them many times before, but I mean, that's pretty terrible. That's horrible. Let's just hope that's foreshadowing to come. And let me go back to one more thing. There was a question that they got. You know, the Democrats want a 70% marginal income tax rate, and Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis, gets the question. Some Democrats want a marginal individual tax rate of 70% of the very highest earners, those making more than $10 million a year. Asked the debate moderator Samantha Guthrie. Would you support that, Beto? And if not, what would be your top individual rate? So this is Beto O'Rourke's response to that question. Listen to this.
Congressman O'Rourke, what we've just been discussing and talking about is how much fundamental change to the economy is desirable and how much is actually doable. In that vein, some Democrats want a marginal individual tax rate of 70% on the very highest earners, those making more than $10 million a year. Would you support that? And if not, what would your top individual rate be?
This economy has got to work for everyone. And right now we know that it isn't. And it's going to take all of us coming together to make sure that it does. Necesitamos incluir cada persona en el éxito de esta economía. Pero si queremos hacer eso, necesitamos necesitamos incluir cada persona en nuestra democracia. Cada votante necesitamos la representación y cada voz necesitamos escuchar. Right now, we have a system that favors those who can pay for access and outcomes. That's how you explain an economy that is rigged to corporations and to the very wealthiest. A $2 billion tax cut that favored corporations while they were...
Man, stop. What is so ridiculous? Like, the Democrats are not anti-corporations. It's such a lie. They're really not. They're pro the corporations that are going to censor conservatives. You know, they're pro Google, they're pro. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this is not the 1990s. This is not the 2000s. This typical line is just not going to work. I don't think. All right, so it's also time now for your meme of the day. Joe, I see that we have a good one. This meme of the day is courtesy of Stay on Instagram, stay.right.politics. Here it is. Well, how would you describe this, Joe? This is what? This is we have what appears to be, what is this? These are glasses of water, or is that a shot glass there?
I don't think it really matters what
doesn't matter.
kind of glass it is.
So you have two glasses. And the hand that's holding one glass up into the air, pouring pouring the water in one into another glass. The hand holding the glass is labeled impressionable millennials. They're pouring a glass marked money into another glass marked Bernie's campaign, meaning crazy Bernie's campaign. The only problem is the glass has a hole in it, and it's pouring out on the table. What, it doesn't have a hole in it?
No. So... for those of you who have poured stuff before, you know how sometimes when you try to pour a glass, it ends up running down the side of the glass instead of actually pouring over the edge?
Yes.
That's what's happening.
That's what's happening. And it's just pouring out on the countertop instead of going into Bernie's campaign. And the countertop puddle is labeled Bernie's fourth house. So I think this is a really good one. It's a good format, new meme format. But you do have impressionable millennials that are like, yeah, anti-corporations. Socialism is the answer.
Let's tax that top 1% like 90%.
So they're giving all this money to Bernie's campaign, but it's really just going to make him more wealthy. Obviously, now that's not directly true because if you can't use campaign money to directly enrich yourself like that. But hey, there are ways. Mm-hmm. There are loopholes, I'm sure.
Now he can afford his fourth and fifth house.
Yeah, that's right. Just ask. Indirectly, that's true because if he runs a competitive campaign, he'll be getting speaking fees. Even if he loses, he'll be getting better speaking fees and everything else. And if for some reason he wins, I mean, he's essentially set for life. So anyway, that is your meme of the day. We will post it as normal, as usual, on the Twitter page at Conduit News. You can follow us there as well as Facebook.com/Conduit News. And what's today? Thursday? So tomorrow, hopefully my voice is going to be better. Tomorrow we will be listening to as much Johnny Cash music as we can, while at the same time peppering in the news and events of the day for Johnny Cash Friday. Thank you guys so much for listening. Arkansas, have a great Thursday and be safe.